It's me, Aki from Bring Forth, and this is set 28, or is this set 29? This is set 29, part 1, so I've been doing this almost for a month. And I have two topics in mind, and this will be a fairly short update. Firstly, there was a criminal case in Finland that I'd like to talk about a group of elderly people who affixed a guard wire in a snow ramp so that when you glide down the ramp you will hit the guide wire and you will be injured, and in their actions they caused the death of a young girl, and the ramp was private property and it was marked to be wired so that it was officially marked that it isn't for public use, but the markings were remarkably small. They were the traffic sign instead of the large sign type markers. So the youth who were there didn't notice that the place was guard wired, and one of them rode down the hill and she got hit in the wire hit her and she died. So the punishment was a ludicrously small 30-day fine for the people involved and some slaps on the wrist. And the people involved actually had the audacity. I mean, they killed a person. It doesn't matter how justified they thought they were, they killed someone. Had the audacity to complain to the Supreme Court or the higher court and ask for a forgiveness of their sentence so that they shouldn't have to do anything at all, including pay taxes, because it was a private hill. Now, these guys are idiots of the highest magnitude, because in this country it is illegal to set a trap that can harm a human being anywhere, even in your own apartment. You are legally not allowed to set a human-harming trap in a safe and then have that safe locked away somewhere. You are not legally allowed to do so. There is a previous case where a hunter had his cabin broken into several times during the winter, and he set a bear trap on one of the windows, and the assailant broke in through the window and fell on the bear trap and died, and the person who set the trap had to pay the fines and was actually imprisoned for it because it was illegal. So this is somebody setting up a trap versus a known burglar and being forced to pay, and these guys setting up a trap in a modern urban environment and causing the death of a young child, and then complaining when they get 30 days of suspended sentence. So if there's justice in the higher courts, they will be harshly found guilty, very harshly, because there's a difference between making sure that people don't jaywalk and setting up mines in the middle of the street to make sure they don't jaywalk. There's a difference between having a sign that reads "No jaywalking" and then shooting people from a street top. You know, there's a world of difference there. You should use your common sense when you set up traps in hills where people are actually gliding down snow. So anyway, that was topic 1, and topic 2 is the Finnish military strength, and I'd still like to continue with my Finland-only gameplay as well as the Nordic home gameplay, because I feel like the Finland-only gameplay is interesting. It's useful for the purpose of remaining solidly connected to the real world. And we, based on my estimate, need to be about 30 largest in military strength, not 80th. Perhaps even 50 largest would be okay. But we can't, naturally speaking, be the 6th largest like we currently are. That will be bad for our budget. But being 80th largest is too slow or too small for military comfort. It makes people's actions be militarily susceptible to enemies, so that they don't even understand it themselves because they don't have the military education to notice why something in their country is going wrong when it's clearly a foreign invasion. they don't have the wherewithal to deal with something like that. So we need a military that's about 30th strongest. So this should still be doable with our 20,000 police officer and 75,000 soldier limit. And it should help communicate in situations where there's confusion about who is where and who is what and how are people doing and so on. So it should allow easier communication between especially heads of state and people in the street. It should be more perhaps calm is not the right word, but let's say error-proof, so that it's much easier to make sure that there aren't any kind of errors in the system relating to security. I don't necessarily have the speaking abilities to make it known why it should be the 30th to 50th largest. Perhaps 50th is better than 30th. But I can tell you that the communication between the heads of state and the people in this country is suffering from a low level of military in this country, so that we don't appear to be the mass that we should have. We appear foolish in our low mass, perhaps. It is hard to define, but that is what I have seen. It causes us to appear foolish and low mass. So that is about the size of it. Someone is complaining about Articles 13. I said most people probably won't end up paying for the taxes that the article makes possible to use, and it will be properly used, probably used as a individual court case for large companies to be taken down. Well, we'll see. It could be that they actually want people to pay things like linking tax, which is ludicrous. So that is about the size of it. A young woman died gliding down a snow hill when she hit a guard wire that was fixed on the hill by some older people who lived in the region, and the court punishment was 30 days suspended for the older people who still complained to the higher court for the punishment and asked for appeal. And I hope that the higher court actually takes this one and rams it somewhere very far and very dark where the people will never be seen again. These people need that kind of punishment. And thinking about our military strength, and I think we should be between 50 to 30 largest militaries and not the 80th largest military like we currently are. So I will still use the Finland only gameplay, but I will continue from the assumption that we safely bought the added territory from the Russians. So that is about the size of it. Anyway, that is all for this update.